Only mode.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome everyone. Let me do a quick poll because I want to ensure that you can actually see the slides this morning and you can hear me, and that will be a good result. Very good. Excellent. I like it when there's no technical problems. Uh, Particularly for me being here in the Netherlands where it is morning, but for many of you, I do understand it's in the afternoon. So welcome. Pleased that you could join us today for our DASA Deep Dive webinar. We're going to be talking today about creating cross-functional autonomous teams, which we refer to as DASA Principle number 4. And before we get there, just let me introduce myself. My name is Deborah Burton, and I'm the marketing manager for the DevOps Agile Skills Association. Some of you might also know me as the channel marketing manager for ITpreneurs. And ITpreneurs is a forerunner organization of the DevOps Agile Skills Association. So again, welcome. I just want to, before I turn it over and introduce our guest presenter today, that very first slide that you took, that was on the screen, was telling you a little bit about the DevOps Agile Skills Association. I think the key takeaway I would like to leave you with about DASA is that our objective is that we set the stage for an understanding of what the DevOps Agile Skills Association is. And what DASA is an open global initiative that works on developing competencies that will benefit individuals and teams and organizations. And we want to do this by working with organizations like yourself and hopefully offering thought leadership as well as real practical guidance for competence development around DevOps and Agile skills. So we're really thrilled that you could join us today. And I am also really thrilled to be joined by Frederick Shucken, who is a managing consultant at Quint Wellington Redwood. Quint Wellington Redwood is also a forerunner member of DASA. So we're really pleased to have him here. Let me just take a moment to introduce you to Frederick. If having known Frederick now for a while, he is a person that's passionate about helping customers to adopt to disruptive thinking, as he calls it, which helps in the creation of high performance IT by embracing DevOps and lean IT principles. He's a very experienced IT guy. He has over 20 years of experience in the business, and he loves helping businesses to adopt DevOps methodologies, break out of that rigid traditional way of working and move customers to more focused, lean, and agile approaches, and actually how you go about creating a high performance team. He has a very strong business and people focus, a real no nonsense approach. He is very hard on results and flexible on methods. He's a member of the DASA editorial board, and he's really known as the DevOps guy within Quint Wellington Redwood. And he has such vast experience in lean IT, DevOps, Lean Six Sigma, Black Belt, IT service management, and also he's an awesome public speaker. So that's Frederick. But before I turn him over to you, both of us are very interested to know a little bit about you. So what we want to do is launch a poll. And if you could share with us what your experience is with DevOps. Are you already a DevOps guru? Are you an expert? Do you have some experience, or do you just know a bit about DevOps, or are you kind of brand new to it and you have no experience and don't know a lot, and that's one of the reasons you're joining us here today? Okay, I see the voting is coming in. Oh, great. Thank you so much. So many of you have voted. Let me share the results. So, Frederick, we have the largest percentage of our audience that know a bit about DevOps. So they know something, but I'm sure they'd like to know more. We have another large percentage that have no experience or really not much knowledge at all about DevOps. And we do have some experts, welcome, and some folks with some experience. So let me close those results and go back to the presentation. And again, thank you for sharing that with us. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Frederick. And why don't you talk to us a little bit about DevOps principle number 4? As you see, I show all of the DevOps principles here, but maybe you can give us some insights on DevOps principle 4, creating efficient cross-functional autonomous teams.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. Thank you for a very nice introduction you just gave for me. And then good morning, good afternoon to everybody who's joined this webinar. What I would like to do with you is in the next, let's say, 20, 25 minutes, is talk about this DevOps principle number 4, creating cross-functional autonomous teams. And I'm sure that people that already know a bit about the DASA initiatives, you probably have heard that in defining DevOps, we did not choose to come up with a definition. There are a lot of definitions out there for DevOps, and most are addressing certain elements within DevOps. And we felt, well, let's not go down that route, but let's see if we can define a number of principles that to us really resembles what DevOps is all about, the DevOps way of thinking, the culture, the philosophy. And we came up with six principles, and today we're going to talk about principle number 4. And principle number 4 is a real interesting one because it's very much focused on how to create high-performing teams within IT. And for some that is quite different to what they experience when getting in touch with DevOps. And it's a lot about automation and technical bits, but this is a lot about the skills and the knowledge areas for people within an IT organization, and whether or not that will change, and how to organize in such a way that we within IT adopting to DevOps can deliver value to our customers in the best way possible. So that's what we're going to talk about, and if you want to know more about the other 5 principles, visit our DASA website, Google it, or attend some of the other webinars, because we have a lot of materials on the other 5 as well. And before we go on, I would like to ask you one more poll question. Deborah, can you help us with doing the poll question?
Yes, absolutely.
The question is quite...
Yep.
Just go ahead, Deborah. Sorry.
So if you would start with DevOps, what would be the first thing to address? Is it cultural change? Is it building a continuous integration system? Implementing continuous improvement? Is it making performance transparent? Or is it automated testing? Okay, everybody is voting. I'm going to give you just a couple seconds more for those of you that are pondering your answer. Okay, looks good. Great. I'm going to close the poll and show the results. Take a look, Frederick.
Oh, excellent. Very cool. 81% says cultural change is a remarkable score, a very good one in my opinion. We've been doing this poll quite a lot the last few webinars, I guess, and normally the results always differ a lot. So this is also different to the prior ones. And cultural change, very interesting. 81%. And to me, that's I like this. When an organization says, well, Frederick, we're going to adapt to DevOps, we want to change, and this is where we start, then I usually get a good feeling about achieving success with such an organization. So excellent. And of course, just the last remark, there are no right or wrongs in this. You can start anywhere. That's fine. It's just interesting to see where you think you would begin. All right, thank you. Deborah, can we go back to the slides?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so cross-functional autonomous teams. And the interesting bit is that it's very much a cultural thing that we're addressing, although it's about organization. And if you look at my background, I've been studying lots of years ago at the university in the Netherlands in a town called Groningen, business administration, so tinkering with organizations and the way the hierarchy and the teams are structured and departments and things like that. And that somewhat touches upon this fourth principle. And what the fourth principle, the cross-functional autonomous teams, is all about is that we want to make teams that are responsible for a certain part of services that they provide to customers. And to be responsible for a IT service, you also require autonomy. If you do not have autonomy, how can you be end-to-end responsible for providing IT services to your customers? So teams should be able to deliver business value, new versions of the software products, new IT services, bringing new functionality, changes, things like that. And they should be able to deliver that as autonomous as possible. Just what that basically means is that they are not bothered by other teams, not bothered by other dependencies. They don't rely upon external providers, suppliers that much to deliver their service to their customers. And when you achieve such a thing, that means that if you put a number of people, a team if you will, in a position to do that, that the team needs to have a balanced set of knowledge and skills to do all that is required to deliver that software and IT services through its entire lifecycle. And that's where the competence framework we at DASA have developed comes in. Because we firmly believe, and it's not just our belief, we think we see this in the market and organizations as well, that when you transition to a DevOps way of working, like I call it, it will have impact on IT roles, responsibilities, and many traditional IT functions will change. And we feel that in general the change is that people within IT will become more all-round professionals with multiple skills, not just software developers or system administrators or IT service managers. You know, all-around professionals with, to a certain degree, all will have engineering skills, new soft skills, and a prime focus on the 6 principles you briefly saw before we started at the beginning of this webinar. And the key to doing DevOps the right way, if you look at this 4th principle, cross-functional autonomous teams, is that we need to recognize those skills and knowledge, and that we should be able to make the teams responsible end-to-end for an IT service and make sure we organize it in such a way that they can be autonomous. So we need cross-functional teams. Basically that means they consist of multiple people with from different disciplines. So basically that means that you will have people with more of a T-shaped profile. And they go in depth in certain expertises, probably more than one, but they do know in a broad way the horizontal bar within the T profile of a lot of different roles and jobs within the team. So DevOps, besides things like automation and providing great services, is very much about developing people. And when you do succeed in having those complementary skills within a team, a well-balanced set, then the team will flourish. Therefore, we used to say that there's no such thing as a DevOps hero. It's about a team effort and the team that wins. It's not a single guy that should be the hero. And indeed, if you have read the book of Gene Kim, The Phoenix Project, maybe you remember the character called Brent, and he's the local hero. And he is such an impediment to providing great services. So therefore we say there is no DevOps hero. You need to create high-performing teams. And that sounds easy, but basically it's not, right? Because if you look at traditional ways of working within IT, then we see a number of problems. And I've highlighted a few in this list, but a lot of organizations, especially the large ones, are still very much focused on silos. And they've got teams working in isolation, with different problems and perspectives. They need to cooperate, but it's difficult because the way the organization is set up, it will create different mindsets. We, of course, within DevOps, we talk about the development and the operations differences, but there is a lot more than just Dev and Ops, and sadly, a lot more different mindsets that we see in within IT. And that goes hand in hand with different implementation, different tools. It's difficult to learn from each other. And when things go haywire and things go wrong, the blame game starts. I mean, who is responsible? Where at the end, the question is, where are the feedback loops? How can we learn in the way IT traditionally is set up, with all these groups of people grouped together on specific knowledge or skill sets, and we need complementary teams to make DevOps really work. So the picture we use within our training courses at DASA is this one. And we talk a lot about business system teams and platform teams, and basically we refer to the organizational model. And the way the organization is structured, the way we group people together in department units, and especially teams. Now, one thing to stress, if you, as an organization, focus on creating high-performance teams, cross-functional, and it's not about initially changing the whole organization and the structure and things like that. That might follow when you start adopting DevOps, but initially you can create great teams still in the current organizational model and structure and departments. Just group the right people together, give them the ability and the autonomy to create high performance IT services, and let them be. One of the organizations in the Netherlands that is a forerunner, if you will, in DevOps is just doing that. Recently, I had a customer of mine. We went to that organization and they showed us the way they're doing stuff. And what the guests were expecting was to hear about reorganizations, new departments, new structures, who's going to be the manager of department A or B. And it was none of that. But still they created great teams, and we're building them up, and we've got people from different departments grouped together as a team. And it was working for them in a very good way. So basically there is no need to start tinkering with the official structure of the organization, especially if that's an impediment of actually doing this stuff. Just focus on the teams. And if you then look at the teams and we say, well, we need cross-functional teams, then we've seen some examples at organizations where they say, wait, okay, let's do this. Let's create teams, and we put all the roles that we can find that the team needs grouped together. So from the whole IT stack, we've got network specialists, system administrators, we've got developers, product owners, IT service managers, and they're all grouped literally into a single team. And you can do this, but normally what we see is quite difficult to achieve this. Because at some level, let's say at the lowest level, the networking bit, I mean, you can't have every team running their own network, right? So at some point you need to come up with a way to organize teams that there is some commonality, common ground between those teams. Some organizations that we see create sort of a hybrid version. So they recognize that, well, within the networking or the storage layer within the IT stack, you need a group of people who is focused especially on that. And you can divide the network into different bits for each and every team. So what they do is they take their, especially their agile teams, their development teams doing Scrum and things like that, and they assign one operations rep within each team, and sort of a liaison between the development teams and the IT operations people. And still, it's not quite where we want to go. It could be an intermediate step in going to cross-functional teams, but it's certainly not an end state. So the way we see it, and we call it DevOps done right for the moment, is that we can create a separation between what we call business system teams and platform teams. So basically what this means is that we've got business system teams, and a business system team is a fully autonomous team that is providing IT services for customers, and they should be able to land, if you will, their application and their infrastructure code on a generic platform that is maintained and provided by a platform team. And it could be infrastructure as a service, or maybe there is some technical application management bit as well, and we call it a platform as a service. But those details, let's not go into that right now. The important thing is that the platform team is providing a sort of a self-service platform, which is a product in itself. So it will need maintenance, it will need innovation, ownership, it will have a customer interface, and the customer being the business system teams. And in this model, we feel that the infrastructure and the reusing of infrastructure and the benefits of that are the largest. And without impediment, and without hindering the flow and the speed of the business system teams in creating new services and doing changes and all that kind of stuff. So if you set this up the right way, it enables the business system teams to take full responsibility of their services in its complete life cycle. And basically the business system team manage the end users, the services, the products, their applications, and the platform team is responsible for doing the management of the platform products used by the business system teams. So the platform teams do not take over any responsibility for the services provided by the business system teams. The business system teams is still end-to-end responsible for their service. And that's well, kind of a disruptive thing for many organizations. It's like handing the key of the data centers to the application teams, which of course it is not, because in those business system teams we also got IT operations people. But still, this is a major change within a more traditional way of working. And the other really important aspect within this is that the business system teams and the platform team, they need to work closely together to make sure that the services provided by the platform teams are actually the correct ones and are usable in the right way by the business system teams. So great cooperation is still very much required when you adopt this model. But this is the way that we see organizations going forward. So let me have another sort of a similar picture like the one before. And at the top you see product teams using monolithic delivery. In the green you see all the different layers, and then in the orange is what we talked about the slide before. And what you see is that by adopting DevOps and this number 4 principle as well, we see organizations move from a more they sort of leave their project focus behind and move towards a product and platform focus. And some organizations sort of set up an experiment where they use sort of fast lane teams on the side that can do the whole IT stack sort of outside the traditional IT organization, sort of an experiment. And that is basically what we saw 2 slides ago. You create these teams, you put them outside IT, they're very independent, therefore they're autonomous. But in the end, to really reap the benefits of a generic platform, then eventually those organizations also switch to a platform team that is delivering platform services to the business system teams, or the product teams as they are called in this slide. So the effect what we see is that it's goodbye to traditional projects. So Originally, traditionally, if you will, and we've got very much a siloed organization, which means it's very activity focused. Resources might be grouped on speciality, performing one task in a chain of events in a process, and like example, database management or updating stuff. And what it means is that it's very much optimized for resource utilization. And we've got all the people very busy, 40-hour work weeks, but it's not very efficient from a customer point of view. So therefore, we move to this product-focused team thing, which is very much focused on delivering value to customers. And it might not be with the greatest efficiency from an individual resource point of view, but that's not important to our customers. And that's also creating the activity focused a lot of waste. So the product focus might be less efficient, but due to the fact there is a lot less waste in such an organizations, the end result will still be that they get more work done and produce more value. Because the traditional siloed way of thinking and organizing, it's basically suboptimal. The chain of events, the flow there are lots of impediments in that, in the chain of activities, lots of handovers. So the throughput in such an organization is very low. Usually we see a lot of work in process, and we see all this work waiting when they move from one silo to another. And at the end, it's very difficult to find and to assign responsibility for the end result in such an organization. So, the reason to share all this with you is that we need these cross-functional autonomous teams. And without the stuff I just talked about, it's very difficult to create that autonomy. But when you do, you set up a team such a way that they can actually take responsibility and start improving their way of working towards a high-performing IT team. And then, of course, the big question is, what kind of roles, skills, and knowledge do we need within such a team? And of course, it depends on the setup and the kind of service you're providing, whether or not the platform team is just delivering a very basic infrastructure or it's a platform as a service. But basically, we think that the roles that you see on the left are the ones in general are needed within a DevOps team. And a DevOps team being a product team delivering IT services in such a way that they follow what we think should be the 6 principles of DevOps. And you still need a team manager, a product owner, someone who represents the business. You need people with operation skills, with developers, testers, etc., etc. And at DASA, we think that there are 4 skills and 8 knowledge areas that should be well distributed within such a team. And you can read about those on the DASA website. We've got white papers on this, so I'm not going to dive into that in detail. But basically, with the DASA training courses, we aim to provide the means for a team to build up all those skills and knowledge areas to at least level 4, that they are highly competent in all of this stuff. And when they do, and we've got all the roles on board, and we create a setup where a team can be autonomous, then your customers will become very, very happy. And of course, we talk a lot about organizations, but in the end, you also need this DevOps culture, which is the prime enabler to doing all of this stuff. So your 81% score on culture is a very good thing, because the core of the DevOps culture is this emphasis on services, on continuous improvement, on getting to maximize flow of IT value to customers. So it's what we call the service mindset, and that's the core of DevOps. And basically that means always trying to improve the quality of our services and our products throughout the entire life cycle, and being able to take the overall end-to-end responsibility for the health of the product. So to sum it up, DevOps is about creating high-performing IT services to customers. Therefore, you need the skills and the knowledge grouped together within a very effective team with the right kind of roles. And you need to make sure, one way or another, that those teams can be autonomous in the IT services that they provide. And of course, to do all that, we've got these fabulous new tools and automation concepts that we can utilize to achieve all this. And that's basically what I would like to talk to you about in this webinar. It's 10:30 here in the Netherlands. We've been at it for about 30 minutes. So I think I would like to thank you for your attention. And if there are any questions, please let me know.
Well, thank you.
Deborah.
Thank you so much for that, Frederick. I found it very interesting, particularly to really understand the way that DevOps teams need to be organized and the different approaches that you actually see happening among organizations out there, and then tying it back into why that DevOps culture is such a primary enabler and having that service mindset. So thank you for sharing that with us. I am opening up to some questions from our attendees. If you do have some questions, please feel free to send me a chat. I'm taking a look here. So I have a question for you, Frederick. What about small organizations? What happens to them?
Yeah, that's always very interesting. Because I've been talking to people who say, yeah, well, we've got 15 people within IT. I mean, how do I create DevOps teams? And probably the answer is you don't. If you've got a very small number of people, then basically probably you're already automatically moving very much to being just one team. So then the cross-functional teams and the way it is set up is well, really not that important, not that doable in such a size, but the focus on the skills and knowledge, on being autonomous. Probably there are external service providers helping, doing their bit in providing IT services. That becomes very important. So if you got basically, let's say, 15 or 16 people maybe within IT, and then we still see that maybe we've got 1 or 2 people who are very much focused on the infrastructure and the platform as a service and the automation bit, usually with the help of external service providers, or maybe just shopping at Amazon Web Services or Google, and the rest is very much focused on delivering IT services. But yeah, if you've got a small team, then the first part of this webinar, that stuff, well, it's good, and you don't have to worry about that because that's a given.
I have a question from Matt Hu. What do you recommend for an existing project manager?
Oh, that's an interesting bit. I don't think that projects, the project way of working will disappear, but I do feel that as a project manager, and I've been in that role quite a few times myself, where you've got a project team consisting of people who are also assigned to doing work in their departments or in multiple projects. And you always need to find ways to get everybody doing their bit at the right time for your projects, and it's a big coordination effort. I think that bit of doing projects, that will disappear. But within let's say a business system team, you probably still need some projects to do certain assignments that the team takes on. So that's one bit. And the other bit is that I think that the traditional project manager will very much be more focused in the product owner role, as we know it from the Scrum way of working, and how to come from business needs to doing actually assignments within IT. And in that bit, there is still lots of work to do. But yeah, as a project manager, I would be afraid what will happen to the traditional ways of doing projects.
Okay.
So yeah,
I was going to
followed it.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah. Go ahead, Deborah.
I'm sorry about that. I just had a question from David. His question is how to get started. Pilot, Big Bang, phased?
Oh, I would say pilot. Think big, start small, start smart. Uh, it depends. You can start with doing agile, setting up development teams using Scrum or some similar way of doing stuff, and then basically expand the responsibility of the agile team. So you take on board the functional management, technical application management, and slowly working your way down to the more infrastructure bit. That's a way of doing stuff, but sometimes we see DevOps pilots starting within infrastructure, and they start building platform services that development teams can use. So it depends a little bit on where the starting point is, but 70% of the organizations start with doing agile in the development part of the business, and then slowly building that up team by team to doing DevOps.
Okay, thank you for that. I have a question from Francisco. What happens when there's a lot of outsourcing services?
Oh, very, very interesting question. Just one remark on the prior questions. Get your top management on board. That's basically very important. Because if you don't, then at some point you will start having trouble. Then a bit on outsourcing. Well, I work at Quinn Wellington Redwood, and we are very experienced in doing outsourcing. And then yesterday we had a chat with some industry experts on DevOps to look at just this question. What does this mean for outsourcing? And what we see is that, well, basically two things. If you look at infrastructure outsourcing, on the one hand, outsourcing will disappear. And what I mean is that a lot of organizations will start using cloud services, and they will use it at Google or Amazon Web Services, things like that. Because in the Netherlands, our government has issued that from a compliance point of view, it's okay to use those services. So our financial organizations, a few of them already started migrating to such cloud solutions. So basically that means that their current outsourcing contracts, where they outsource the mainframe for the next 10 years to a certain external service provider, in the end, that will still be the case as long as they will be using traditional applications running on such infrastructure. But all new developments, new applications, new services that they build, they basically either switch to the cloud providers I just mentioned, or they take up an additional part of the contract where they say, I want to use these kind of services. They should be provided to me like a platform services, so automated, self-service, no impediments to the flow of my teams. So it should almost be similar to it, like let's say an Amazon Web Services, but we want to use a private cloud that is hosted by an external service provider. And what we then see is that the contracts we need to set this up are way smaller than the traditional contracts we do for the traditional mainframe 10 years outsourcing. And that is a thing that the industry, the external service providers, are very aware of, that they need to move that way, and technically they're doing that, but the people who are doing the contracts, not so much. Well, basically I would say they should all come to our DASA courses to learn about this stuff, because there are currently an impediment of making these kinds of deals.
Right. I have a question.
So good question.
Yeah, it is. I also have a question from Ralph. He says it's more of a general question. How can he become a trainer?
Oh, it's quite simple. For a trainer, we have requirements that you attend one of the Train the Trainer webinars. I know that we at Quint are doing one next week. Entrepreneurs has been doing them, and probably there are a few coming up as well. So you need to do that, and you also need to do the DevOps Fundamentals exam, and I guess you need a certain score to pass. And then you're officially you can become a trainer, but you do need to sort of show your trainer skills. Maybe you've been doing trainings for, like, say, APMG accredited training courses, and you have been assessed by them. And besides that, you of course need to understand DevOps and a bit about Lean and a bit about Agile and IT service management, IT in general, and then you're good to go. Well, excellent.
Great. And Ralph, if you want to know how you can become a training partner, you can go to our website, www.devopsagileskills Association, and you will be able to download a training partner application form. Fill that in and send it back to us. Two more questions, and then I'm going to wrap it up. A lot of really good questions coming in. Another follow-up question from David, who asked about how to get started with the Big Bang pilot. He also said, who is best to lead that team? Is it business? Is it development? Is it operations?
It would be best if business would be doing it. What we normally see is that it run within development. So again, 70% starting in development, run by development, but as soon as possible, make sure that you get your sponsors on board from business and from IT operations. And maybe from a security compliance sponsor as well. And then you're good to go.
Okay, great. And the final question we have time for this morning, afternoon for some of you is, do you have any training classes?
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, well, we do have our DevOps fundamentals that are available for you if you're interested, and looking at and taking that type of training from a DevOps.
Oh, I thought you meant trainer courses.
No.
But if it's just training courses, then yeah. I know that the Forerunner partners, they all are offering DASA DevOps Fundamentals training courses. Some of them are open enrollment, and some of them are targeted at specific organizations. But I think you can almost ask any of the Forerunner organizations, and they will probably provide you with opportunities to join one of the training classes.
Yep, absolutely.
But I don't have an overview of this. Yep.
Okay. And if you want more information on that and the type of Forerunners that are available that are providing those classes, Madhu, just drop me an email, and I'll be happy to share that with you. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you, Frederick, for the presentation today. I also want to thank all of you that joined us this morning. We're a little longer than we had anticipated, but that's because we got so many great questions. We really appreciate that. So we want to thank you. We'll be doing more of these DASA deep dive webinars because, again, our objective is to provide you as much information about the subject on DevOps, but also, this global universal movement that we're trying to bring to help enterprise organizations achieve value out of DevOps and Agile skills. So, Frederick, thank you again, and thanks to all of you that joined us today. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.
Thank you, Deborah. Bye-bye.
Bye.